lesson number 2, Nelson Mandela Long Walk to Freedom. Now the story we are going to read is actually taken from an extract from a Nelson Mandela book, that was Long Walk to Freedom. उसमें से एक छोटा सा extract लिया गया है. Now the story we are going to read, it is obviously about none other than Nelson Mandela. Now who was Nelson Mandela? He was an anti-apartheid and he was the first black president of South Africa. Now before Nelson Mandela came into existence, or before he started his struggle, fight for the freedom of blacks, we need to know that what is apartheid system. So apartheid system was a system which was actually followed not only in South Africa but major parts of the country, where blacks were being ill-treated and they were restricted to some place only. Like there were places where blacks were not allowed, where temples were different, their society were different, there were restaurants, there were beaches, there were so many public places where blacks were not allowed. Moreover, blacks were ill-treated and they were not even given the desired or the respect which they actually deserved. It was also not given to them. So Mandela, as he was anti-apartheid, so he fought for the rights of black, being a black himself, and that is what we are going to read in the story. And finally he became the first black president of Africa. Now we know what apartheid system is. Now coming to why there is discrimination, because white people, they used to think that we are superior because our color is white and blacks are inferior because of their color. Now this is what human psychology is also. Whenever we are talking about beautiful, we show white color. Whenever we are showing ugly, we show black color. Like angels are always in white color. Like devils, they are always wear black color. So because of this psychology, we have started discriminating people on the basis of their color, which is also known as colorism. When you discriminate people on the basis of what? On the basis of their color. Now Nelson Mandela wished that freedom in Africa should reign, that there should be freedom in Africa, not only for blacks but also for the whites. That when he became president of South Africa, he declared that though he is a black, but he is not going to discriminate whites and blacks. He is not going to give advantage to black and make whites suffer. This is not why he is here. He is here to distribute both the things equally, to treat everybody equally with equality. What Nelson Mandela wanted was equality, and that's why he said that now when he has become president, he is not going to do कि black को advantage दे दो और white को suffer कराओ. No, he wanted that both should be treated equally and there should be freedom. Everybody should be free to do whatever they wanted. And for that reason, he sung 2 national anthems. One for blacks and one for the whites people, so that कि whites को ये ना लगे कि blacks को advantage दी जा रही है. And when he became president of South Africa, there came the birth of democracy. So before that, South Africa was not at all a democratic country, but after him it became one. Now everybody, when he became the president and when the ceremony was going on, when he was actually, there was an inauguration also, so what happened? Everybody came to salute him. There were leaders, from political leaders and other leaders from across the world who came over there to pay respect to Nelson Mandela. So he was being saluted, he was also being paid respect. So this is the picture of Nelson Mandela, as you can see on the board. Now Nelson Mandela, he then talks about, and he then comes on the stage and delivers a speech. So in his speech, he says that it is not just a victory for me, but it is a victory for justice, for peace and human dignity. That human dignity which earlier was being taken on, now everybody will be having that human respect. Moreover, he also pays respect to his brother and sisters who have died in this struggle. That there were other people also who were part of, who has helped him in this struggle where he actually got freedom and where blacks, they finally got the right. In that struggle, many people have lost their lives and he also pays tributes to them. And then he says that this is end of apartheid system, that from now onwards, whites and blacks will be treated equally and there would be equality. Then in his speech, he also gives the 2 contradictory picture of his country, that his country was how it was earlier and how it is now. So he shows that there are two pictures. In first picture, he shows how the blacks were being tortured and they suffered. In the next picture, he showed how blacks will be free to live their own life. In the first picture, he says that how blacks were treated. Like in the board, you can see that white persons only. That there were boards which were being kept, placed at places where it was clearly written white people only, and if black tried to enter, they were beaten by and they were thrown out of there, like as if they were animals and not human beings. जैसे animals को फेंक देते हैं वैसे ही human beings को भी फेंक देते थे. So he has shown two picture of blacks, and in the next picture, the first one was past and the second one is future. In the future, he says that now blacks will also be free and they will be having right to live their life freely. They will not be asked to not to do this or not to that. He would actually be allowed to live freely. Now this was what he said in his speech, and there were several important things, the points from which question could be asked in your board exams. So let's see the points, the important points. Now Mandela in his speech, he said that courage is not the absence of fear but the victory over it. It is very important. Courage kya hai? What is courage? Courage is not the absence of fear. When you are having fear and you say that I can overcome it, so that is courage. But courage is not absence of fear. अगर मैं बोलूँ मुझे fear ही नहीं है, I'm not afraid of anything, it means I'm not courageous. If I say I have fear, but I will overcome it, I will fight against my fear, be it whatever, this shows that I am courageous. So courageous is a person who accepts its fear. कि मेरे को डर लगता है, I know I'm afraid of lion, but I can fight it to overcome it. So that is the courage. So in a way, he said the courage is not absence of it, of fear, but to have victory over your fear. The second thing, very important line he says is, love is something that comes naturally to human beings, then its opposite. Now see what happens. When a child is born, we do not teach child how to hate somebody. अब जो छोटा बच्चा is not aware that blacks are supposed to be hate, or certain class of people are supposed to be hated, or religious hatred. Child is not born with anything, but love is something that comes naturally to child. Child is somebody who is going to love everybody. जो भी उसके पास आएगा बच्चे के पास, the child is going to show love. So love is something that comes more naturally to people, to human beings, but hatred is something that is being taught. We are being taught that this certain class of people we are supposed to hate. Even if we are not told about it directly, then indirectly also we actually heard it from people. Then Nelson Mandela talks about twin duties of man. Again, it is very important. He says that every man in this whole world has twin duties. The first duty is towards his family, that every man is supposed to take care of his or her family, right? So as your parents are taking care of you, so what they are doing their duties. So Nelson Mandela here talks about twin duties. The first one is towards its family and the second one is for the country or for the community. So he says that for any person it is impossible to complete both the duties or obligation. So twin duties actually means twin obligation, which is being referred to in the chapter. So he says that for any person it is not possible to complete both the duties. Okay, if somebody is looking towards family, they cannot completely look towards their family. If somebody is completely looking towards their family, they cannot look towards their country. So he says that what Nelson Mandela wanted to do, he said that this life is for my country. For another life, maybe I will actually devote it to my family. So that's why he devotes his complete life for his country and starts fighting for the freedom of what? Of whom? Of black. Then Nelson Mandela says that freedom is an illusion. It is an illusion because we don't know what a freedom is exactly. It is different for different people. Though Mandela was born free, his freedom was taken from him. Now, why he says freedom is an illusion, it is again very important. For a little kid, when Nelson Mandela himself was a kid, for him freedom was what? Freedom was going to the nearby park. अब एक छोटा बच्चा है, उसके parents उसको बोलते that okay, you can go and play in nearby park. So what is that? That is freedom for a child. Or if the parent says that okay, you can go on a picnic, school picnic. So what is that? It is freedom for a kid. But as you grow up, the term freedom actually goes very vast. The term freedom has many different perspectives and aspects. Similarly, Nelson Mandela said that for when he was young, for him freedom was what? Freedom was to go to the nearby park and play. But as he grew, he understood that he was not free. Though he was born free, but his freedom was taken from him because there were certain places where he was not allowed. That's why he says that though I am born free, but my freedom is being taken away from me, and by whom? By white supremacy. So this is what he wanted to say. The next thing he says is that hunger of freedom made him powerful and bold. So how he is so powerful and why he is so bold? He is so powerful and bold because of the hunger of freedom. His whole life he wanted what? He wanted freedom. Freedom where blacks could be treated equally. His brothers and sisters could be treated equally with respect. So that's why he had freedom of hunger from his early childhood. And because of this freedom, he was very bold and powerful. He became so powerful that he was not afraid of anybody because there is nothing people can take away from him if he is not free. So not just his freedom, but also freedom of his brother and sister. Here we are not talking about his real brother and sister. Brother and sister means the people of the same community. So brother and sister here means the men and women who were black in color. Black race. So brothers and sister here means black people basically. So he said that I do not want just my freedom. I can easily get freedom while going to another country. But I also want freedom of my brother and sister. That whole race, whole color, black colors, people should be treated equally. This is what he actually wanted. The next statement, again important, he says both oppressor and oppressed are robbed of humanity. Now you need to understand what oppressor is and what oppressed is. Oppressor is somebody who torture someone. जो torture कर रहा है, जो किसी को भी like they are treating anybody not in a well condition, so that is oppressor. Okay, if I am torturing you, I am oppressor, and the person who is actually tolerating everything is your oppressed. Suppose if you are tolerating everything, मैं torture कर रही हूँ, मैं मार रही हूँ और तुम tolerate कर रहे हो, then you are what? You are oppressed, and I am what? I am oppressor. So we both are robbed of our humanity. Obviously, if I am oppressor, I am completely robbed of my humanity because I am ill-treating you. But how oppressed is robbed of humanity? Because they are actually tolerating it everything very quietly. They are not fighting against what is wrong. So that's why both are equally at guilt. Somebody जो गलती कर रहा है वो भी guilt में है, and somebody who is tolerating is also equally at guilt. Why they are at guilt? Because they are not fighting against the wrong. They are tolerating the wrong thing. So that's why he says the both are robbed of their humanity. Oppressor is a prisoner of anger. जो oppress कर रहा है, that person has lot of anger in it. Lot of anger, while the oppressed have no confidence in humanity. जो सह रहा है, maybe the person is not having any confidence in humanity. That this is how people are, and this is what I have to see all through my life. This is how oppressed people they think कि ये ऐसे ही होगा and I should not fight against it. This is what humanity is. Oppressed is not believing in humanity. That's why they both are equally guilty, and oppressor is not even free. Both of them need to be liberated. They both are not free. Now somebody who is oppressor, जिसको करना है परेशान, whole day his mind would be what new I can do to torture the people, what new I could do so that I can have control over them. So his mind is not free, he is not liberated. And secondly, oppressed, in their mind it is all time going on that what next we have to go through, अब आगे क्या होगा. So that's why both oppressor and oppressed, they are not free and they are robbed of their humanity. At the end, Nelson Mandela says that he became the man of the black people. How he became man of the black people? Because he became voice of the black people. He used to speak in favor of black, and whatever black peoples used to feel who could not come out in front of the world and tell their sorrows, that was being said by the mouth of Nelson Mandela. So he ended apartheid system where blacks were ill-treated, which was introduced by whom? Which was introduced by white supremacy. White supremacy means white people who were in power back then, which made life a living hell for the dark-skinned people. Now imagine you are being at a place where you cannot, it's not just the places you cannot visit, but there were a lot of things which were not allowed to you. Like in India also, we were treating people and calling them untouchables. Like untouchables in India, blacks were being treated in Africa. So it was life was like a hell for dark-skinned people, which ended when Nelson Mandela became the first black president, and with him the color discrimination also ended in South Africa. So this was all in this wonderful story.